By this stage, we should be ready to start looking at creating our own tests. And there's two options there. One is to create your own test and import your own questions. The other one is to use a test, an existing test, and that's what we're going to look at with this video. So let's have a look at all the tests that are available. But can I start actually by looking at tests by topic, just as an example? So here we see English, Maths and Science and all the different tests that have been generated and made available through the ACARA group. Look, I suppose the downside for me is I'm not quite sure if I was looking at persuasive texts, whether that's what year group that's pitched at. So the downside of this is you're not quite sure where it's pitched, but the upside obviously is it's looking at specific areas to test. What I'm going to do is look at all tests. Now, for example, I might be interested in looking just at going back a step and considering what Year 6 can do in science. Now, the test source, what you're probably interested in is public tests or everything, so just don't select anything in test source, I would suggest, until you figure out what's going on. Let's look at in science inquiry skills. And so this is going to provide me with a list of all the tests that are existing at the moment and are publicly available. And there's only one. And it gives you a short description of what this is looking for. And what I'm going to do is just have a look at the test. There's 13 questions in it, and it includes some, and it looks at data analysis. So let's have a look at this test. Okay, so you've got a description, and there are the 13 questions that are included. You can look at the question itself, okay, or you can actually preview the question. Sorry, that's the same thing. You can look at the details of the question itself, so you get a sense of what it's doing and what it's testing, and you can see the learning activities that have been associated with this particular question. Okay, you can see it's been published by ACARA. You can add this to a test, or we can just use, because we're working in the question level at the moment, we can add this to the test straight up, or we could add it to our own test, but I'll just not do that for the moment. So we're looking at the test details. Now, a couple of actions that you can do is you can preview the test. So I'm going to show you something in this mode. So this is what the test will look like. Because there's 13 questions, it provides the student to flick through to any of the questions, and it will show you the status of the question. So I'm going to go back to question 1. Question 1 asks about Mr. George calculating, but what you can see up here is there is a stimulus that's been included in this question. So I'll click on it just to demonstrate. And burning foods, and it gives you this little PDF document. So that's the stimulus for the question, and then the question is over here, and then you can select whichever one you like. Now the students also have this opportunity to rate their confidence. Now if students are answering this honestly, then it's good information for me to get a sense of, you know, if I clicked I don't know, then, and I've got this, then obviously this is a guess. But it's just guessing, it's just providing some additional feedback to us, and I'll demonstrate this later in another series of videos. Let's keep on looking at the test. So I'm going to close this preview. Now what I can do is I can actually just copy, I can assign this test as it is. If I think that this is perfect, this is exactly what I need, I can assign the test, and I'll click on that, and I can select which class I want to do this. So I might, you know, let's give it to my demonstration. You can select from these couple of things here, and you can just look through that. You can turn the confidence level on or off. Okay, so you don't need those there. It can be timed. It can be themed, so between primary and secondary. And here, more importantly for me, I think, is you can remove this Year 6 tag and just create science inquiry skills, or create it, call it what you want. So if you are looking at going backwards or indeed going forwards, you don't have to have it labelled as a Year 7 or Year 8 or Year 9. Okay, you can provide instructions, because this is what's going to get sent to the student when we assign the test. So that's how you would assign the test to a particular class. I won't assign it at this point, I'll just go back. The other actions you might do is I want to copy this because, and I will do this, and I'll just call it capital S. So now this is in my tests, view my tests, and here it is here. Now I can actually edit this now, and I can add questions to it. I could change some of the questions if I chose to. So, and you can play around with that yourself. But so copy something in and just have a fiddle with it and see how you think you could maneuver this to make it suit your class. So that's working with finding suitable tests using that option and looking inside the test, deciding to actually assign it as is or to copy it and change it. Okay.